Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And Dynamite just ended a few minutes ago. It is 12:11. It is officially Christmas Eve, so Merry Christmas Eve to all of you out there. And Dynamite started at 10 o'clock tonight because of the NBA game. Dynamite this week didn't start at 8 o'clock. Because of the NBA game. And this was Holiday Bash, as what they were calling tonight's Dynamite. And I gotta say, it was a solid show tonight. And we saw MGF and Chris Jericho versus the entertaining tag team, Top Flight. We saw the Jurassic Express take on 5, 10, and the guy who I always say he doesn't fit in the Dark Order, in my opinion, and that is Colt Cabana. And then we saw Pac versus The Butcher, Dustin Rhodes versus Eveluno, HIKARU SHIDA versus Alex Garcia. We had Albadon end up making an appearance, which Albadon is getting inside of HIKARU SHIDA's head. And in the main event, we saw Matt and Nick Jackson, the Young Bucks, take on the Acclaimed, where the AEW World Tag Team titles were on the line. But overall, Holiday Bash edition of Dynamite was a solid show, in my opinion. So let's get on with the Dynamite review of Holiday Bash, the Holiday Bash edition of Dynamite. So the Holiday Bash edition of Dynamite opened up with Chris Jericho and MJF of the Inner Circle versus Top Flight, Darius Martin and Dante Martin. Of course, Jericho and MJF came out along with Jake Hager. And this was a pretty decent match here. It was very entertaining. Top Flight continues to impress here. And the match started off with Darius and Jericho starting it off. Jericho slapped Darius. And Darius ended up throwing some punches at Jericho because of him slapping Darius, or Jericho slapping Darius. So Jericho came back and started delivering some chops to Darius. Darius ended up knocking Jericho down with the enziguri, a very cool enziguri. We had Dante come in, and he ended up taking down Jericho. MJF got in. Him and Jericho dominated over Dante. MJF was trying to taunt Dante. Dante ended up fighting back, and he ended up knocking MJF outside. So, Top Flight, Darius and Dante ended up throwing some top rope punches and drop kicks to Jericho and MJF, which knocked them to the outside. So Dante was shown trying to chase after MJF. He was trying to bring MJF back into the ring, and Jericho came in and delivered a right hand. MJF then ended up bringing Dante back into the ring, went for the cover. Dante ended up kicking out. We had the Inner Circle, Jericho and MJF. They were trying to ground Dante. MJF and Hager ended up getting some shots in. Jericho then ended up setting Dante up on the top rope. Jericho was looking to go for a suplex, but Dante ended up fighting out, and he ended up hitting the crossbody to Jericho, which he went for the cover, and Jericho ended up kicking out. we saw Darius end up hitting a really nice looking Spanish fly to MJF, and then he did a top suicida on Jericho, which was a good combo there. Darius then delivered a missile dropkick off the top rope and onto MJF, but MJF ended up barely kicking out. At the end of the match, we had Hager pulling Darius because he was going to springboard to MJF. And MJF then ended up hitting the Heat Seeker to Darius. So went for the cover. There you go, Jericho and MJF ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had MJF, Jericho, and Hager in the ring. Hager ended up getting on the mic. He ended up thanking Top Flight. And he ended up saying how everyone in the circle have done their jobs. So Hager ended up mentioning that he's pissed off at Wardlow for not showing up because of family business, which Hager ended up saying that this is family business. Hager then went on to say that he understands Wardlow is an asset. So Hager then called Wardlow an asshole. So then Hager then ended up announcing on Dynamite next week, it's going to be him versus Wardlow next week on Dynamite, which is going to be night 1 of New Year's Smash. So we're going to be seeing that next week. But overall, it was a decent match between Jericho, MJF, and Top Flight. Well, Top Flight, continues to impress here on Dynamite. And then we had the Acclaimed. It was like a music video that the Acclaimed did. Max Caster ended up rapping about how they're going to beat the Young Bucks and make them young ones. So, of course, the Acclaimed and the Young Bucks end up facing off later on, which was the main event. And then we had Tony Schiavone. Tony Schiavone was in the ring. He ended up welcoming Sting. So Tony Schiavone ended up interviewing Sting. Sting came out. It's been 3 weeks since Sting made his debut on Dynamite. And Schiavone ended up asking Sting about how it feels to be back on TNT and in AEW. Sting ended up saying that he knows he has come full circle. And he ended up saying that he is glad to be back in the jungle. So Tony Schiavone pointed to Darby Allin, who was, of course, standing in the rafters. And he ended up asking about Sting's plans. Sting ended up saying to Tony Schiavone that that's a deep question. Sting ended up telling Tony Schiavone that he goes back in time and recalls when he needed a break. He ended up talking about how when he went one-on-one with one of the greatest of all time, Dusty Rhodes. So he had a Dusty chant break out. Dusty Rhodes, may he rest in peace. So Sting ended up saying that he recalls Dusty telling him, we're going to put some color on your face, before he would go on to face Ric Flair. Sting ended up knowing that he's now going face to face with Cody Rhodes. And he ended up saying AEW was something that he wanted to be a part of. So Sting ended up saying that it's good to be home. Sting was about to tell Darby Allin something, and then Team Taz ended up interrupting Sting. Team Taz came out, Taz, Hobbs, Ricky Starks, Brian Cage. Taz ended up saying that Sting is always about him. It's always about Sting. And that he's tired of, it's Sting. What Tony Schiavone always says, when Sting comes out. Tony Schiavone's popular, it's Sting. So Ricky Starks ended up saying they don't care about Sting's business with Cody or Darby. And that they care about him getting into their business. So Ricky Starks and Taz end up threatening Sting about heading into their jungle. And they were about to attack Sting. The lights went out. And Darby Allin ended up appearing in the ring. So Taz ended up talking about Darby Allin's upcoming match against Brian Cage on night 2 of New Year's Smash, where the TNT Championship is going to be on the line. Cage ended up saying that he doesn't want to wait. So Cage was ready to go. He didn't want to wait until January 6th. But Team Taz was trying to calm him down. And Team Taz then left. Sting and Darby Allin were staring at each other face to face. And that was basically that. But this was a very enjoyable segment, with Sting and Team Taz. And, I said it before. I think Sting is going to be managing Darby Allin. With the whole Sting and Darby Allin staring each other face to face. I think Darby Allin's going to let Sting, manage him. So that's a good thing there. Having Sting manage Darby Allin, that would be awesome. So we had MGF backstage. MGF ended up walking in on Santana and Ortiz. Santana and Ortiz were playing cards. MGF ended up showing his support for Santana because Santana recently lost his stepfather, which is a shame, very, very sad. But Santana and MGF end up embracing. Santana then told MJF to always keep your head up. So Ortiz and MJF end up shaking hands. MJF got, a little emotional. And that was basically that. But, MJF ended up showing his support for Santana. Was pretty nice after, Santana losing, his stepfather. Thought this was, pretty nice. MJF showing respect. And then we had the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, and Marco Stunt versus 5 and 10 and Cabana of the Dark Order. And this was a pretty good match here. Although, like I said, Cabana, in my opinion, he feels so out of place in the Dark Order. He really does. He just feels so out of place, like they just threw him there with the Dark Order. That's my opinion. But Cabana and Marco Stunt start off the match, and Marco Stunt end up going for quick offense on Cabana. 5 end up coming in. Jungle Boy then came in, and he and Marco Stunt end up doing, a double move, a combo move on 5. Jungle Boy then end up doing a huge drop kick to 5. Went for the cover. 5 ended up kicking out. Marco Stunt ended up coming back in. They did another combo. Cabana then came in, braked up the pin. Marco Stunt was distracted, which allowed 5 to tag in Cabana. So the Jurassic Express later on were taking out 10 of the Dark Order. So then we had 10 end up delivering a elevated German suplex to Jungle Boy, and 5 and 10 and Cabana end up isolating Jungle Boy, and they were holding Jungle Boy off from tagging in Marco Stunt or Luchasaurus. And Jungle Boy later on ended up getting caught by 10. 10 and 5 ended up hitting a drop kick and a fallaway slam combo to Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy ended up bouncing off the ropes, and he ended up taking 10 down with a clothesline. And we had 5 end up coming in, and Luchasaurus ended up tagging in. Luchasaurus then ended up taking out 5 and 10. 5 ended up getting taken out by a German suplex from Luchasaurus. And 10 ended up trying to take out Luchasaurus, but he got chokeslammed by Luchasaurus, and then Luchasaurus ended up delivering the standing moonsault. Marco Stunt and Luchasaurus ended up working together. They ended up taking out Cabana. So then Cabana came back, and he ended up taking out Luchasaurus. Later on, we had Luchasaurus throwing Marco Stunt into 10, and Luchasaurus ended up delivering a powerbomb to Cabana. So it was a powerbomb combo from Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy to Cabana. So there you go. The Jurassic Express ended up winning the match. But overall, good match. Post-match, we had Tony Schiavone end up coming into the ring to interview the Jurassic Express. And he ended up talking about their rise in the rankings. So Marco Stunt was going to get a sentence in. And then we saw Tully Blanchard and FTR on the screen. Tully Blanchard ended up talking about how FTR is the tag team of the year. So he ends up calling the Jurassic Express Jurassic Park, which I thought was funny. So Tully Blanchard ended up calling the Jurassic Express, or as he refers to, Jurassic Park. He calls them out for a match on New Year's Smash Night 2 on January 6th. And he called them out to give them time to prepare, as they are chomping at the bit to get the tag titles back. Tully Blanchard ended up saying, dinosaurs aren't going to take them down. So Tully Blanchard then was mocking at Marco Stunt. Marco Stunt was pissed off. He was livid. And Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy were trying to hold him back. So that was that. And then we had Alex Marvez. Alex Marvez was trying to interview Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion, and Don Callis at their hotel. Don Callis ended up wondering how Tony Khan has his wrestlers run things. Callis ended up saying that they don't get dictated to by the talent. So Kenny Omega ended up noting that Phoenix choked at his opportunities for the tag titles. Also in AAA and in the title eliminator. Omega ended up threatening to put Phoenix out for good. He kept saying that he has friends in Impact that would take you back. Callis ended up bringing up Conan, or Omega ended up referring to him as K-Dog, and how he would take him back. So that was basically that. Kenny Omega was just calling out Rey Fenix. So that was that. So then we had Pac versus The Butcher, which was a decent match. Pac ended up coming out along with Penta El Zero Miedo. The Butcher came out along with The Blade and Eddie Kingston and the Bunny, aka Allie. And we had Eddie Kingston on commentary, which, of course was awesome. Gotta love Eddie Kingston on commentary or when he's on the mic. So the match started off with Pac and The Butcher butting heads. They went back and forth. The Butcher ended up catching Pac with a diving splash off the ropes, ended up slamming Pac into the corner, weared Pac down. Butcher then delivered strikes on Pac's back, threw him across the ring. Butcher ended up delivering a right hand, and he went for a cover, but Pac ended up kicking out. So the Butcher delivered a Irish whip into the corner. He was delivering more strikes on Pac's back, and the Butcher was trying to wear down Pac's back. We had Penta end up distracting the Butcher for Pac to fight back, and Pac ended up luring the Butcher to the outside, tried to throw him into the barricade, but the Butcher ended up countering with a big boot to Pac. The Butcher then ended up throwing Pac into the barricade, and the Butcher ended up taking his time, getting Pac back into the ring. So at the end of the match, we had Pac end up going to the top rope. He ended up hitting a shotgun drop kick to the Butcher. Pac went to the top rope again, but the Blade ended up taking out Penta, which distracted Pac. The Butcher ended up taking Pac out with a clothesline and a slam. We had Eddie Kingston end up providing the Butcher with coaching on commentary. The Butcher ended up continuing to take his time. And then out came Lance Archer. Lance Archer came out to confront Eddie Kingston. The Butcher got distracted, which allowed Pac to deliver a roundhouse kick. Then Pac went up to the top and delivered the Black Arrow. So there you go. Pac ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Lance Archer and Eddie Kingston. They were jawing back and forth. Kingston was hiding behind Jim Ross, which was funny. Archer and Pac were face-to-face in the ring. So that was that. And Eddie Kingston was talking trash on commentary. He was basically talking trash to Tony Schiavone. So that was that. Overall, it was a decent match between Pac and the Butcher. So then we went backstage. Jade Cargill ended up congratulating Brandy Rhodes on being a mother, on the pregnancy news. And she was like, oh yeah, Shaq ended up calling out Cody, and now I'm calling out you. Jade is calling out Brandy. And she asked for an opponent worth her time. So that was basically that. But this whole Jade Cargill, Brandy Rhodes, Shaq, and Cody thing is going to be on hold, because of Brandy's pregnancy news. So that's all going to be on hold for now. So then we had Tony Schiavone Tony Schiavone was with Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford, and Miro. Miro was mad at Schiavone because Schiavone wasn't showing his happiness over the wedding announcement for Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. So they were announcing their wedding date here. So Kip Sabian ended up saying, "This is the first wedding on TNT." He says, "This is not only a big deal for the talent and people backstage, but also the fans, because of how big this is for your insignificant lives." So Kip Sabian was ready to announce the wedding date for him and Penelope Ford. And then the Best Friends music ended up playing. So we were all thinking that Chucky T, Trent, and Orange Cassidy were going to come out, but it was a setup by Kip Sabian, Penelope Ford, and Miro. The Best Friends didn't come out. So there was footage shown of Trent being put into an ambulance. So we had Chucky T and Orange Cassidy go in the ambulance with him. So Kip Sabian ended up saying that it's a shame they can't be there. So Kip Sabian then ended up announcing that their wedding will be a beach wedding. And the wedding is going to take place on AEW Dynamite Beach Break. That edition of Dynamite is going to be called Beach Break, and it's going to take place on February 3rd. So February 3rd, we're going to be seeing the wedding of Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. And then Miro ended up expressing his excitement for the wedding. And that was that. So there you go, February 3rd, AEW on that edition of Dynamite, which is going to be called Beach Break. We're going to be getting the wedding of Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford. And of course, Miro being the best man. And then we had Dustin Rhodes versus Eveluno. Dustin Rhodes was out there with Lee Johnson. Eveluno was out there with Stu Grayson. This was a okay match here. As the match got underway, Eveluno slapped Dustin Rhodes, and Dustin went outside of the ring. Dustin ended up gaining control of the match. He was delivering some strikes on Eveluno, and Dustin was trying to take out Eveluno off the ropes for a slam, but Uno ended up stomping on Dustin's hand, and he took Dustin out of the ring. Uno ended up throwing Dustin into the barricade, and both of them would trade strikes. Uno then ended up trying to go for a chop. Dustin ended up ducking, and Uno ended up hitting the ring post. And so because of that, Dustin was targeting the hand of Eveluno that hit the ring post. Eveluno then raked the eyes of Dustin, and Eveluno ended up catching Dustin with a big boot. He went to the top, ended up delivering a senton atomico, and he went for the cover. Dustin ended up kicking out. And at the end of the match, you had Eveluno end up catching Dustin with a heel kick, with a spinning heel kick. And then Dustin came back and he evaded Eveluno, and he ended up hitting a running bulldog on Eveluno, and he got the win. So there you go. Dustin Rhodes ended up winning the match. Post-match, Eveluno was still trying to continue to recruit Dustin into the Dark Order. He was offering his hand to Dustin. Dustin then ended up faking the handshake, and he took down Eveluno. Stu Grayson ended up coming in. He ended up taking out Dustin and Lee Johnson. Stu Grayson ended up hitting Nightfall, and QT Marshall ended up running in. The Dark Order ended up taking him out. Lee Johnson then ended up springboarded in, and he ended up taking out the Dark Order with a double drop kick. So that was that. But overall, it was an okay match between Dustin and Eveluno. And then we had Tony Schiavone backstage with Shawn Spears. Spears ended up saying that he's more talented than anyone in the world. He told Tony Schiavone that his confidence is still high, even if the 3 letters change. Tony Schiavone ended up wondering if Spears is the common denominator. So Spears was pissed off at what Schiavone had said. He ended up calling Tony Schiavone a piece of shit for saying that. And Shawn Spears was like, he wants management to know that he'll come back when he feels like it. So Spears ended up walking off. So that was that. So then we had Dasha was with HIKARU SHIDA, the AEW Women's World Champion, and ABADON ends up coming in. ABADON ended up attacking HIKARU SHIDA. So HIKARU SHIDA was instructed to go out for a match. So then HIKARU SHIDA made her way out for a match against Alex Gracia. I think that's how you pronounce her last name. I think I called her last name Garcia, but it's actually Gracia. I think that's how you pronounce the last name. But this was a quick match. We had a point in the match where Albadon was out there. HIKARU SHIDA was staring down at her, and she ended up taking out Albadon on the outside, knocking her unconscious. And I think it was Aubrey Edwards who was the referee. She was counting, and HIKARU SHIDA ended up avoiding the 10 count. And Gracia ended up catching HIKARU SHIDA with a roll-up. Then HIKARU SHIDA ended up stunning Gracia, and she ended up hitting the Falcon Arrow. There you go. HIKARU SHIDA ended up winning the match. Post-match, HIKARU SHIDA ended up grabbing her kendo stick. She ended up going towards Albadon, who of course was unconscious. HIKARU SHIDA then ended up tapping Albadon. Albadon ended up, awake. She ended up awakening as both her and HIKARU SHIDA brawled on the outside. And then we saw Albadon end up biting HIKARU SHIDA on her neck, which I thought was crazy. And once after Albadon ended up biting HIKARU SHIDA's neck, you saw little blood on Albadon's chin from that. So then Albadon ended up staring down HIKARU SHIDA. So that was that. But that was crazy, seeing Albadon bite HIKARU SHIDA. And then we had the main event. The Young Bucks, Matt and Nick Jackson versus the Acclaimed, Anthony Bowens and Max Caster. The AEW World Tag Team titles were on the line. This was a pretty good match here. We had Matt and Max Caster ended up starting off the match. They were going back and forth. Matt Jackson ended up catching Max Caster with a drop kick and a arm drag takedown. Nick ended up coming in, and Caster then ended up tagging in Bowens, and the Acclaimed were lured in by the Young Bucks, and they ended up getting taken out to the outside. Matt and Nick ended up hitting sliding drop kicks to both Bowens and Caster. And they also end up hitting a splash and a standing moonsault on Caster on the outside. So Bowens was left alone as Matt and Nick end up going to work on him. And we had Matt Jackson try to bounce off the ropes, but Caster ended up grabbing his legs. Caster ended up coming in, and the Acclaimed ended up hitting head kicks on Matt. They went for the cover. Matt ended up kicking out. So then at the end of the match, we had the Acclaimed. They ended up trying to set up Nick Jackson, but Anthony Bowens was met with a super kick, and Matt Jackson ended up power bombing Bowens through a table. Max Caster ended up in a super kick and a BTE trigger, and that was that. The Young Bucks end up winning the match, retaining the AEW World Tag Team titles, and that was how the Holiday Bash edition of Dynamite ended tonight. Overall, it was a good main event. It was enjoyable, and it was a solid show tonight, Dynamite. But yeah, that's it for the review of tonight's Dynamite. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for my Christmas morning vlog coming up on Friday. And the Christmas morning vlog is going to be a little different this year. So be on the lookout for that coming up on Friday. There will be no SmackDown review on Friday because of Christmas. So anyways, thank you all for watching. And until next video, which will be the Christmas morning vlog, see you all later.